We're now live.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everybody. I'm Councillor Mike Warren, Chair of this licensing subcommittee. The other members of the subcommittee are Councillor Kevin Parker and Councillor Stephen Dabbs. The legal advisor today is Louise Dallois, and licensing officer, if I could ask Mick to introduce himself, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mikołaj Waligorski.
Thank you for that. And our committee clerk today is Catherine Holton. Can I please ask the members of the committee if they have any interest to declare and the nature of such interests?
No interest, Chair.
Nothing from me.
Thank you, Stephen. Firstly, just some matters of housekeeping. There are a couple of members on today's meeting who are actually in the building of Daventry District Council. So it's possible that a fire alarm may go off. If it does, then these individuals will have to leave the meeting and we will have to suspend it and come back to it, hopefully not too long a wait, or we may have to reorganise the meeting. Can I say that, can I ask everybody to, if they've got a mobile, to put that on silent, and to tell you that we are recording this and we are also live streaming on YouTube at the moment. This hearing is to consider, where are we? Sorry, let me just find the right bits here. Right. We are considering today the application of the addition to the license of the Saracen's Head, Main Street, Little Brington. It's a variation of the license. All the officers present will have been introduced. The applicant or the representative will present their case shortly, and the officers will be able to ask any questions. The applicant will also be able to, or the residents will be able to ask questions of the applicant, and will be able to cross-examine their presentation. Can I ask the licensing officer to present the application, please?
Good morning. This is an application for a variation of the premises license application in relation to the Saracen's Head, Main Street, Little Brington. The application has been publicised, and I have seen a copy of the advertisement and the blue notice. They have been forwarded to the licensing subcommittee for consideration. Councillors, are you happy to proceed with the application following receipt of the blue notice and copy of the advertisement?
I am.
Happy to proceed? Okay. We've received no representations from statutory authorities. We received 3 representations from local residents who reside in the vicinity of the premises. Members are advised that a full copy of the relevant representations are attached to the report at Appendix C. The issues raised concern all 4 licensing objectives. Under prevention of crime and disorder, there are concerns in relation to potential for antisocial behaviour to occur when customers have no way of seeing into the paddock. In relation to protection of children from harm, there are concerns that they will be put in harm's way when they have to enter the roads to access the paddock. Under public safety, the concerns relate to potential risk of people walking down Main Street and having to enter the road to get past parked cars when the road is already heavily congested. Potential of risk of reduced space on the road, when the cars park opposite one another, especially if the pub car park spaces are reduced, and potential risk of emergency vehicles and agricultural vehicles not being able to pass on the road when people park opposite one another on Main Street. In relation to prevention of public nuisance, the concerns are for potential increase in traffic and parked cars, which will create increased noise levels, potential for increased light pollutions when the cars park, rear of the premises and paddock need to be lit for customers who are drinking and watching films, potential for increased noise levels for customers sitting watching films, as well as doors slamming and horns tooting late into the evening, plus potential for noise and nuisance levels to increase due to the impossibility of supervising so many people in such an area. The applicant informs us that their operating schedule addresses the issue. The applicant is applying for a variation to the current premises license for the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises, extending the area to include a paddock where customers can watch films, and opening earlier in the morning and closing earlier in the evenings. They wish to rent out rooms to cater for people who wish to stay overnight and hope to provide breakfast in the morning but no alcohol. Any activities that are already licensed are not in question through this variation application. Consideration should be given to the additional licensable activities that are being sought. If planning permission is required, the applicant should seek that approval separately to this application. A license may be granted that permits an activity that is not currently permissible by planning restraints. The applicant would not be able to carry out that activity unless they are also applied for the relevant planning permission. To do so would put them in breach of planning, which would be dealt with by planning enforcement officers. We received 3 valid representations during the consultation period. One of those did not arrive during the consultation, but on checking the email address and our website, it is clear that we are advertising the wrong email address on applications. The resident followed the instructions we had seen on the application form. Therefore, the representation has been deemed valid. We are updating our online information to take this into account. 3 other local residents made us aware of their concerns. They decided to approach the license holders, and it is our assumption they were given assurances, and this is why they did not make objections. On the application form, there is reference to opening times and sale of alcohol for New Year's Eve into New Year's Day morning. Unfortunately, the times for both of these activities are the same, 1 a.m. As you have to allow for a period of time for customers to finish their drinks and disperse from the premises, one of these activity times will need to be amended. As opening times is not a licensable activity, it can either be moved forward or backward, but alcohol cannot exceed 1 a.m. as this is what was written on the application form. No doubt the applicant will be able to advise whether they wish to amend the opening hours to 1:30 a.m. or reduce the sale of alcohol back to 12:30 to enable a closing time on New Year's Eve of 1 a.m. the following morning. As mentioned before, opening times are not strictly a licensable activity, although you cannot really amend them or condition them unless you have grounds to do so. You will wish to consider whether they have any effect on the 4 licensing objectives. The opening hours are being brought forward in the mornings and evenings. On some occasions, the premises is closing half an hour earlier, on some an hour. On all occasions, however, an additional 4 hours is sought so the premises can open and serve residents in the 4 rooms with breakfast. Appendix C shows a comparison of the current hours and those proposed by this application. Note that the alcohol being sold is for consumption on and off the premises. This means alcohol sold from the premises for consumption at the premises is already allowed, plus alcohol sold in containers to be consumed away from the premises, for example, a bottle of wine to take home. You will need to consider whether the application can be approved or refused. If it is approved, the conditions that have been proposed with this application can be amended or new ones added where you believe it is necessary, appropriate, and proportionate, having taken into account the 4 licensing objectives. If there is evidence to suggest an activity should be limited, you could add a condition that limits licensable activities in certain areas or during certain times. For a license for showing films, there are mandatory conditions attached that relate to admission of appropriate age children. As a provider of film shows, the license holders would also be subject to copyright fees, which are payable separately to companies like Film Bag Media, for example. That's the end of my introduction.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Before I ask the applicant to make his statement, can I just ask the applicant to introduce himself, and then the two residents that are making representations to introduce themselves as well, please. Mr. Wright.
Hi, my name is Matthew Wright, and I currently run the Saracen's Head in Little Brington and the licensee.
Thank you. Mr. Holman?
Oh yeah, sorry. Mr. Holman, and we reside at Stonecroft, Main Street, Little Brington, which is currently parallel and adjacent to the Saracen's Head.
Thank you. And Mr. Swallow? Can you unmute yourself? You need to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Peter Swallow. I live next door but one to the application site that you treat.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wright, if you could make your statement now, please. I don't know if you're able to turn your volume up or get a little bit closer to the microphone, but you were really quite faint in your introduction.
Is that any better there?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Obviously listening to everything there, and before we move on and waste anyone's time with going through and asking questions that are not going to be relevant anymore, having looked at the timings of where we're at now, with obviously the objections being in place and it taking a bit longer, we've decided not to go ahead with any licensable activities in the paddocks. Just because we didn't set out to annoy or make anyone's life difficult. Also, summer's coming towards an end, so it'd be an absolute waste of any investment to get everything going in the paddocks. I'm a key believer in keeping things simple. We'll find another use for the paddocks. It's probably better off for horses anyway. So,
sorry, I didn't quite catch that last bit.
It's just
sorry. So your volume, you're breaking up, I'm afraid.
I'm just going to move.
All right.
How about now?
That's better. Yeah.
So we've decided to take that part of the license off. I mean, the film license part of the application was merely for showing films inside a function room for kids' parties, but got blown out of proportion with the cinema being built outside in a field, which was never going to happen in the first place. All we'd like to keep on the license is the change in licensable hours. So with our rooms being refurbished upstairs, so it's not a complete waste of money and time, we can do the breakfast in the morning without serving alcohol until 11 o'clock, and then opening from 11 as well for the general public.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Holman, do you have any objections to the hours that is being requested?
No, do I gather from those comments that the applicant is basically withdrawing the proposals from the paddock?
Yes.
And also the sale of alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. What was your original question?
Do you have any objection to the additional hours that they are actually requesting on this license now?
With regards to opening times to serve breakfasts, etc. in the morning, and I think that was basically it, wasn't it?
Well, the only one was the additional time for New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, which we need to decide whether they're going to reduce the hour to 12:30 and close at 1 o'clock, or have last orders at 1 o'clock and then close at 1:30 in the morning for New Year's Eve. So
Yeah.
it's depending on what the licensee wishes to do.
Yeah, okay. We've no objections at all to obviously opening in the mornings to serve breakfasters to facilitate the bed and breakfast rooms. That's fine. That's mainly all internal. Yeah, I think normally New Year's Eve we go out ourselves anyway somewhere. So
Sure.
we come back, it's probably all done and dusted. So I've no really preference to that one way or the other, whichever suits.
Okay. Where are we? Mr. Swallow, have you any objections at all?
No, none at all. And I'd just like to wish them all well in this very difficult time.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, Stephen, do you have any questions or?
I think all my questions have gone away now. I mean, I will ask a question on because there seems to be an issue with the car parking in general and lots of car parking in Main Street. If I could ask Mr. Wright, how serious is this issue, and is it something that you perhaps need to consider? I don't think it's to do with this application, but generally speaking, if there's lots of cars in the street and it's causing obstruction, is it a matter that you need to consider extending your car park? I mean, I don't know how often this arises, or are your customers perhaps a bit lazy? We'll park in the street and then it's easier to get out when we're finished rather than trying to find a way around a car park.
I think with regards to the last comment, there are a couple that I know of. It's something that myself living 2 doors down from the pub, I'm on the same street, and we have the same issue with not being able to reverse out of our car park. Unfortunately, with more households having multiple cars and only one space for that car outside their house, it's very, very rare that our car park gets absolutely full to the brim where it overspills into the main road. I just think it's a mixture between multiple cars per household and also walkers coming to the village and no visible road markings to say do not park here doesn't help at all.
Okay. Councillor Parker, do you have any questions?
No, I think all the questions I had have now disappeared, shall we say. So I've got no questions to the applicant at all.
Okay. Mr. Wright, can I just clarify, because we're obviously we've got to adjust the application here.
Yep.
So the filming in the back, in the rear field is to be removed. The bar and the outside light is to be removed as well from the application, and also the erecting of any lighting in the field is to be removed as well.
Yep. So the main things that will stay on is the change in license hours and the off license.
Right. Okay. I don't have any further questions. Now, Catherine, can we do we put the applicant and the residents into the waiting room while we just discuss what needs to be done next? Sorry, I can't hear you, Catherine.
Sorry. Yeah, we do that, and then we stop the live stream while you have your discussion, and then we invite people back into the meeting to announce the verdict.
Okay, if you could do that, please.
Okay.